Captain Battelle thinks Captain Pike has better places to be than Bear Creek, Montana. On Ceylon, the seas consist of liquid mercury, and T'Pring asks Spock to marry her. There's a nice necklace in it for you, Spock, by the way. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton.
Hello, hello.
I almost didn't get that necklace joke out. Maybe I shouldn't have even tried it. But there was a nice necklace in it for him. I was like, what a deal. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of the series premiere of Strange New Worlds, entitled Strange New Worlds, written by Akiva Goldsman, story by Akiva Goldsman, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet, directed by Akiva Goldsman. This episode is brought to you by, everybody, Melvin S. Marsh and Andreas Kronman, probably a German name, Andreas Kronman. Thanks, guys. And how are you today, Cirroc?
Doing very well. Very well.
Let's just go ahead and get into it, because this is the one that everybody's going to tune in for. Episode 1 of a new series. This is it. Everybody's like, is it good? Am I going to like it? What are the characters like? They have so many questions. So I just want to get one thing out of the way. For me personally, as a Star Trek fan, sometimes you get a little excited. You get a little nervous. Is it going to be good? How much am I going to like it? I'm going to support it no matter what. I'm going to like it no matter what, but how much? Well, I liked this first episode very much. I was very happy with it. And it felt very familiar, and it felt almost nostalgic. I didn't really realize how to put into words, because I don't want to say it felt very Star Trek, but it did. It felt like I was watching kind of a hybrid between Discovery and old Star Trek, kind of like the technology and the visuals and the beautiful effects of Discovery, but with the feel and the emotion and the tone of old Star Trek that we all know and love. So I wanted to get that out of the way, that I was very happy with the feel and the tone and the delivery and the characters. So much good stuff to talk about. I hope I have enough time to spit it all out. But what did you think, Cirroc?
Well, I kind of went into this with no expectations of what I was going to see. I was really open to whatever was going to be there. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, this was very enjoyable to watch. And the feel, as you say, for me, represented the closest thing I've seen to the feel of an old school Star Trek show. This felt like I was watching it, a great Star Trek show, the beginnings of a really good Star Trek show. And a lot of that, to me, is going to be the credit for the lead, Anson Mount, who's playing Captain Pike. I think he's just so fun to watch, and he embodies the coy and clever characteristics that I look for in great leadership in captains on Star Trek. And I think that he has those intangibles in his characteristics and his delivery as performance as a captain.
Yeah. Anson Mount, people were raving about him during the second season of Discovery, and they were like, we need a Captain Pike show and all that. I wasn't one of them. Not that I didn't like him. It just didn't jump out at me as hard as it did for other people. I was like, oh yeah, he was great. So was Lorca. So was everybody, they're all cool, but some people really gravitated towards them. And it seems like you're kind of explaining why. And I see it a little bit more now. There's a confidence there that all the captains have. It comes out in different ways. How it comes out and how they portray themselves is always different to each person, but they all have that certain comfort in their own skin, and I think he has that. He's not trying too hard to do anything. He's very understated at the beginning when he's like space, the final frontier. He's saying it just very normally, very comfortably. But yeah, I was happy with him too. Seems like a great captain.
Yeah, I think it's a very good cast. I think he's going to be able to carry the show. I see the things that the people thought were the intangible qualities that make him great. I see that in his performance. I think he has some of the confidence of like Chris Pine's portrayal of a captain. He has a little bit of the Chris Pine arrogance to him, but he also has the statesmanship or the elder kind of statesman of a more like Kirk, for example, how we know him. But so he has a lot of he's almost like he's got certain elements of this, certain elements of that, that makes him really great. And there were moments there, for example, when he did the override on Spock's decision on the bridge, where Spock was like, I don't think we should do that. And the lieutenant was like, I think we should put our shields up. And in that very brief moment in which he was faced with a decision to make, and he went with the lieutenant's decision, showed me the kinds of leadership skills that are required for him to be a captain. I love that small scene there. I thought it was good.
Yeah, that's true. He does have a little bit of that Kirk in him, in that they play the character fun. Like there's a little glimmer in their eye. There's a little, caution to the wind, a little cowboy in there, Janeway had that very much as well. And Kate Mulgrew has even in the past said that she said something to the effect of, I did draw inspiration from one of the previous captains. I won't say which one, but we're like, it's pretty obvious which, and then I think she eventually did say was that she made a decision. Do I want to play more like Kirk or more like Picard? And she decided more like Kirk, and it shows. Picard was many things, but he was never known as the fun guy. You know what I mean? But Pike seems like he's going to have that fun guy aspect. Caution to the wind. Screw it. The line, take me to your leader, was very funny, was very good. Yes. And he's just got that way about him that's just kind of like, hey, don't stress about it too much. Whatever, we'll be fine.
Yeah, and you always root for the kind of reluctant cowboy, the reluctant hero who's out and about, who's minding his own business. Like, I don't want any parts of this. But this kind of a story has been played out. The lone Rambo guy. We need you back, brother. It's just the last mission. That kind of a storyline, and we love it. I mean, it's cliche, but we love it as an audience. And I think they did it well in this case with the Bear Creek, Montana. Shout out to Bill Erickson in Montana. I'm sure he's happy to get a shout out.
Good knowledge. Yes, yes.
But yes, and the other thing I like is the beginning, the origins of the story. I feel like we're getting. I like growing with the story from the beginning.
Yeah.
In some cases, they like to throw you in the middle, so they open it and you're like in the middle of everything, and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on here, right? This is like, okay, this is the beginning. We get to see him in action. He gets called back into duty. He's, he gets back aboard the ship. Everybody knows him. His relationship with Spock, he reaches out to Spock. Mm-hmm. I love that scene there where he's like, are you naked? And his girl's like, no, but he was about to be. So,
yes.
Thanks a lot.
Man, Vulcan ladies are hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely like to see it. I love the Vulcan argument that they were having, or discussion, if you want to call it a date. It was the most logical date you could ever get to. Query.
Yeah.
So I just loved it. I thought they just started the introduction of the characters in a very great way.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that, is that I was very impressed, because this is always kind of a nitpick of mine, or something I look for, when people or when shows introduce too many characters at once and you don't know who's what, or if all the characters look the same or all the characters act the same, or it's just like we need to know who's what, otherwise we can't really follow the relationships and the storylines. And this show did an A+ job of introducing everybody bit by bit without forcing it with exposition, because you can take it too far in the other direction, which is like Captain Pike shows up and he comes in, who's this? Why, this is Lieutenant whatever. He's the smartest guy in all the fleet. Oh, wow. Who's it? Well, she's the strongest. I'm like, okay, that's way, too much exposition, way too on the nose, way too obvious. They did it in a way that was masterful. Everybody got introduced. We understood exactly who everybody was and why. And we got to see a little bit of their personality. We could already pick favorites. We can already say, who we like. And they introduced basically, 8 main characters plus Kyle, plus Lieutenant Kirk, Samuel Kirk. Plus at the very end, we got to see the Enar, which was the white Andorian looking guy. I believe he's going to be the 9th regular. Hemmer, I think his name is. So we're going to, and that was great too, because then he gets his last second kind of introduction for episode 2. So I think A+ in introducing us to a new Star Trek crew, which is very exciting and made me very happy, and very much looking forward to exploring strange new worlds with this new crew. I think it's going to be really good.
And not only that, I want to add one more thing that Kurtzman and these guys have been able to just hit home runs on, and that is the set design.
Oh,
this set is unbelievable. The bridge, the captain's quarters, I thought were remarkable. He had the little bar set up. He had the fireplace in there.
You wanted to live there?
I wanted to live there.
Yeah, totally.
like, please. And if I, or design my house and look like that, because it's so pleasing to the eye. So the sets are just remarkable. The mess hall area. They showed the core reactor area where some of the Starfleet were gathered together in the warp core. They showed a few different scenes inside of the ship, and the red doors, for example, the white trim, the red doors, the lights on the panels, everything was just so visually immaculate. And once again, the set designers and the art department just knock it out of the park as far as recreating. It's funny because this is supposed to be old Star Trek, but they made it have that new feel, even though it's older. It's just so,
yeah.
I think that's great about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of, in a way, when I watched Enterprise for the first time, I remember thinking, I want a show about the formation of the Federation. And it didn't give us that for the first 3 seasons. It just gave us that in the 4th season. And we're like, finally, this is what I kind of wanted and hoped for. And this first episode gave me that same feeling, but I didn't really realize that I longed for it until I saw this new episodic form, Star Trek show with a new crew, that I was like, it's something. It's kind of like when you drink water and didn't even realize you were thirsty. I'm like, man, this is good stuff. This is what I've been wanting. It's like the that Soul Asylum song everybody knows. Homesick for the home I never had is what they said. And so it kind of felt like that. It was like, maybe not, who knows? But it just felt like I was yearning for this and didn't realize it until I got it. And then it felt very comfortable, felt very familiar. And I was very happy with it all around. I'm excited about every single character, which is not an easy feat to do in the first episode. Every single character is interesting and fun. They didn't throw any exposition at us. They didn't throw any over the top, whatever. It's hard to do all this in one episode. It's hard. And I think they nailed it.
Yeah, they did nail it. And the other things that I thought were interesting were the first contact idea, the idea that there were warp signatures had led to the technology of this other planet. I mean, just different things like that were amazing concepts.
Smart.
Very smart. I loved seeing the old tricorder when she said, "You're not answering your phone." I love the design and just the way it looked. There was just too many things. There were a lot of little hints there that I thought were made Pike look funny and just, clever, and where he tells the lieutenant, don't lose my socks, when he's getting beamed up, something like that. It's just like, this is the beginning of this kind of, of these kinds of missions. And so we're getting to see something. For example, they talked about the Prime Directive, and he said that'll never stick.
Yeah,
and
you know what it is. I think you kind of tapped into what this show brought back. I think it's charm. There's like that old charm of the '60s where it's like, yeah, it was cheesy, yeah, it was silly, but it was charming. Kirk had that charm. Spock had a different kind of charm. The show itself had its charm. This has that. And Pike, the writers give him these lines, like you mentioned, just don't lose my socks, or take me to your leader. Or he said something about screw the Prime Directive, screw General Order 1, he says. Yeah. And all of these things are charming. It makes us go like, oh, that's that Pike, that Strange New World show. Boy, they're cutesy. It's fun.
And the other thing that they addressed in this episode that I thought was very clever for them is that we know where Pike's going to end up, right? Everybody knows Pike's future. They know the end result for Pike, including now, as we can see in the beginning of this episode, Pike himself, knowing where he's going to end up. And I thought that they played a very good, it's like, showing your hand and still playing, because, otherwise we all know that the audience already knows this too. And so by them acknowledging it and talking about, for example, not believing you're going to die is how you get yourself killed, right? Yeah, or these kinds of lines. The other line was, what good is knowing your future? What good is there in knowing your future? He said, I was asked by a friend that the other day, what good is there in knowing your future? And then he said, here's what's good. And he started to explain it. And I think they just basically take the elephant in the room of where we know Pike's going to go, where you think the story is going to end, and put that right in front of your face and say, but there's going to be this great adventure to get there. And I think that's one of the things that sold me on the adventure to come of this show, is that, Pike has this knowledge, and so he's going to be developing guys like Kirk, right? He's going to be trying to get other people to raise their level so that he knows that he has proper replacements when he leaves, because he knows his time is finite. So I think it just adds to the kind of layers of context and the decision making that Pike's going to make going forward. I think this is a clever way to just deal with that head on.
Yeah, really good point. It's like Babe Ruth pointing to the stand and hitting that home run back in the day, or Larry Bird saying, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to take a shot over you and it's going to go in, except it's kind of in a negative way because he knows he's going to die. But you're right. Like, this kind of gives him the mission of setting things up to be okay when he's gone, because he knows that he will be gone sometime. And on top of that, it creates a natural conflict within the lead character, the same way that Commander Sisko in the first episode did. We start the show and he's got this major, powerful conflict in him. His wife died. He's a single dad. They want him to be in Starfleet. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to stay. He hates this. This is the similar kind of thing where there's a built-in conflict, an inner conflict, not just outer, but he's going to be struggling with this forever. And there are going to be days that are going to be better and some days that are going to be worse. And it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that forms him as a captain, or the added wisdom that he has, or, how it affects him and his decisions. Another quick thing. Did you notice many shout outs in their ships? First of all, they had the USS Stamets, which was cool. They had a USS Archer, which was also freaking awesome. And they also had the USS King Jr. And when they added the Junior, that's when we go, I know who that is. So I thought that was a really cool shout out. Who was it? Somebody, I think it was maybe when La'an was an ensign on the King Jr. I think that's what they're talking about. But anyway, that was really cool. I don't know if you caught that.
I did, and I looked into it, but it was actually brought to you by Burger King, and it was for the Whopper Jr. So.
It was Larry King.
No, I didn't catch it, but I did. There were other issues. There were other things that they talked about. They talked about the Gorn, for example, in one storyline, talking about how brutal they were.
With La'an and her family. And that's something they hadn't mentioned before, that apparently when there's one person left in the family, then they release them. So that's just a little bit more into the history and the culture of the Gorn that we didn't know.
I love the line where Spock says, the Vulcans invented first contact. And Pike's like, yeah, and they just never stop reminding us of that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. Love this doctor that they have, this black doctor who seemed like he's from the islands or Africa. Mbenga.
Okay. I think right now he might be, I was going to say he might be my dark horse favorite, but I don't know if that's the right terminology, but he's like and secondarily, surprisingly, Nurse Chapel. I'm like, am I going to be just like some medical nerd where my favorite characters are in the doctors? But first of all, it was a character that was introduced in the original series in a few episodes, Mbenga, right? So it was already somebody that the old Star Trek fans are looking forward to seeing. Very exciting when they announced that he and Nurse Chapel and Cadet Uhura were going to be in the show, because we're like, oh my God, they're reprising some of these roles, some that we know well, others that we hardly know, like Chapel and Mbenga. And I thought that, again, with the theme, this actor, I don't remember his name, it's Babs something, is extremely charming. Like, you immediately want to be his friend, because he will be nice to you and he will be your friend, and he'll laugh at your dumb joke. He'll put his arm on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, right? Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yes,
guy.
There's something very endearing about him. He seems very familial and like family. So instantly kind of gravitated towards his energy, and was really pleased. The other person I think they did a fantastic job casting was Spock. This guy who's playing Spock is doing a phenomenal job.
Well, it's the same guy as in Discovery.
But it's this version of his performance is much better to me than what he did in Discovery. I wasn't blown away in Discovery as much as I am now in this version of him.
I noticed the same. And I hesitate to say that because I don't want to say that he had a bad performance in Discovery. But in this first episode of Strange New Worlds, watching him play Spock, it felt a little bit more familiar. Like, I recognized Spock in that performance, in that portrayal, more so than I remember seeing it in Discovery. Maybe it's there and I just missed it, because it was years ago. But when I watched it, I was like, oh, this reminds me more of Leonard Nimoy's portrayal than it did before. And I do remember reading somewhere that Ethan Peck watched a bunch of Star Trek and a bunch of Spock to try to get the way Spock's talking, down. Like he tried to emulate Nimoy's fashion of speech. And I feel like that's where it came from. The intonation and the way he kind of slowly pronounces things. I don't know. There was something there. Whatever it was, Ethan, good job. Right? We noticed.
I thought he killed it.
Yeah.
I thought he killed it. Even the voice, I was catching myself listening to his voice, and the actual tone of his voice seemed to almost match the tone of Spock's voice.
Yep.
And so I was blown away by his performance. I thought he nailed it.
Also, real quick,
good performance by Ethan.
I agree. Real quick, I wanted to say that Babs is a Kenyan actor, but Mbenga is Nigerian. So FYI, Cirroc and I know exactly where those two countries are, and we both know that they're a little far apart, but he is nailing it. I mean, east to west, but they are, I really like him. I like him a lot. I didn't expect I would like Chapel as much, because I just kind of, you look at the pictures and that's all you have to go with. So I was like, oh, she's probably just going to be like a backup character, but she's got some sass to her. And it was fun. Samuel Kirk, by the way, is James T. Kirk's brother, FYI. So he is the legendary Captain Kirk's brother, Lieutenant George Samuel Kirk. So he's like George Kirk Jr., and he is Captain James T. Kirk's brother. Anyway.
They also want to say that the Lieutenant La'an, I thought she was actually really good too. I thought she had moments where I thought, I was looking and saying, oh, she's very good at what she's doing.
Right. I actually saw a sneak preview about when Pike gets older and somebody's wrestling her. He's like, get off my La'an. Anyway.
Yeah, that was great. You set me up on that one. But yeah, I thought she was great. I liked her scenes. I liked her performance under the makeup when she was transformed genetically. Right. I thought she also gave great performance in the makeup, as well as outside of it. So I know that's difficult to kind of still project your personality, and even Spock did that as well when he was inside of the other alien makeup to fit in with the rest of the planetary people. I thought Spock's personality was able to shine through that, as well as Lieutenant Lon. So the casting looks good. The sets look great. The story I thought was flowed very well. There weren't moments where I found myself sitting around. I love the exterior shots of the ships when they were doing the
beautiful.
When Pike was first getting transported over to the ship. I love those exterior shots. I love the way he kind of was, she said, oh, all cleaned up. He's like, it takes more than that, or something to that degree. It was just, it had a great feel for it. And this is a fun Star Trek show. So far, it has gotten off on a great foot, and I think it's going to be a fun journey.
A couple more funny lines. Pike says, somebody says, although whatever, I think it might have been Ortegas. He says, not really in the mood for an although right now. Funny line.
Yeah.
Then when they get transported to the planet, he's like, why is it always an alley? So this is all very meta stuff, because they do get transported into alleys a lot in Star Trek. Yeah. Very cool. I do want to, I can't stop heaping praise on the introduction of characters, because the thing that helps them is that half the characters were already created or introduced either in Discovery or in the original series. But that's also what makes it very difficult. Now you have to fill in the edges and not make it just feel like you're filling in edges with filler characters. These need to be main characters as well. We don't want the Pike and Spock show. I don't want that. We already got Kirk and Spock. We don't, and they're not going to give us that. And they made that clear because they smartly introduced us to the chain of command. In different situations in that episode, we were told who's in charge where. Okay, when Pike and Una were gone, La'an was in the captain's chair, so we know she's third. When the three of them and La'an was gone too, right? Then I believe they had Ortegas there for a minute as well. So we know that the chain of command goes Pike, then Una, then La'an, then presumably Spock and Ortegas. And it's a subtle thing. We don't really think about it, but they are sneaking in without saying it. It's just situationally explaining to us who the characters are and what their positions are and what their roles are. And I think it was masterful.
One of my other favorite moments in this episode was Pike saying "number one," and they both say "sir," and he's no, the original number one.
And his delivery, I rewinded back to rewatch that delivery. He went, no, the original number one. He like points, because that's what you, good delivery, good acting there.
I love the line. And one other thing I want to say that this show had checked off another box for me that's important for me, for the nostalgia of Star Trek and what it seems to be about for me. And the box was the captain's log.
Yeah.
And we got the captain's log in this episode, captain's log. Enterprise is my home, he starts to say, and he goes on to talk about why he's choosing to go back onto the ship as opposed to staying on the ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another piece of nostalgia that I really enjoy about Star Trek. I enjoy captain's logs. It's a little bit of a comfort for me. It's a log line for me. It's one of those kind of repeating things that kind of
totally
sets the tone for me of this is, a space military adventure, and we're privy to the thoughts of one person's perspective on it. So I do like the captain's log, and I'm glad that they actually brought that back too as well.
And it's also a way to give us that information, to give us that exposition. And it's okay. Right. It's not forced because it's a captain's log. It's like it's like the narration. So if they need exposition, the natural fit is in the captain's log, and it works for us, and we accept it, and we don't go like, oh God, they're explaining stuff. We're like, ooh, cool. What's today's episode? What adventure awaits this week? It's great. I love it too.
Yeah. And it can come in the beginning or end of the show, so you can drop it whenever you want. But as long as you give me some captain's log, I feel like I get insight into the mind of the captain and what its inner thoughts are. So another very very accurate and interesting box to check off in their portrayal of this show. I think it's so far it's the one that's grabbed my attention as far as the live action shows that they've done. This one has started off on the best foot, in my opinion.
Yeah, very familiar, very easily digestible, not complicated, not hard to follow. Not saying that the others were, but this was very simple and easy to digest and fun and smart. And again, that is very hard to do. It's very hard to have something be simple and easy to watch while also being interesting and entertaining and fun. Those don't always work together. It's a very hard juggling act, and that's why most shows don't achieve that anywhere in first episodes. And I think they get an A+ for this first episode. I was happy with 100% of the elements: the writing, the directing, the visuals, the acting, the casting. I wish we had more time to talk about all the characters, but I'm sure we will.
And I can't say enough about Anson Mount. He's just like, he's born to play captain. He has the natural gift. There were so many moments in his performance in this episode that I thought were outstanding. One, for example, when they're sitting in the cabin and she says, "Are you going to answer your phone?" And he kind of doesn't say anything, but he does a gesture. It's a very it communicates enough information.
Actually, real quick too. the gesture thing reminded me that the thing that made me laugh the most was he didn't even say a word. And I don't remember, someone said that maybe it was then. He just went like that with his hand to something. Someone was saying something and he was just like that. He just did that. And I was like, perfect. We get it.
Yes. And it just left his performance. Like even when the admiral came to ask him to get back in the captain's chair, he jumped off the horse. You scared my horse.
Yeah.
The way he said it, once again, it's just, there's a certain thing in his delivery where it's like he's got that bravado, he's got the machismo, he's got the humility, he's got a very good blend of a lot of these things that you need in order to pull off leading, for me at least, a high quality, high level captain.
Right, born to do it. It seems. Also, very quickly, Robert April looked very comfortable, looked pretty awesome walking around in that snow too, by the way. Looked like a movie star right there. Probably is one. And Lieutenant Kyle was a throwback from the original series. That was awesome to see a Lieutenant Kyle being the transporter chief. Love it. Very happy with that. We have a very special free-for-all right now, everybody, right after this. So stick around for that. Before we do that, though, very quickly, special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, TJ, Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Timothy Baum, a.k.a. Grandpa One, Bill Victor Arucan, Darlena Marie, Titus Mohler, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, on a post, Dr. Frank Sobozhensky, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Palat, Tierney C. Dieckmann. Hey, that was AOC. I just realized that. Patrick David Lindsley, Joe Balcerati, and of course, everybody knows Dr. Susan V. Gruner. Thank you all very much. Stick around for the free-for-all. It's a special time. We are going to have a ton of fun with this Strange New World series. See you on the other side on the Seventh Rule. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
You know what time it is. It's time for the free-for-all. And we are joined by, on a post, Michael Goo, GDS, Goldu Scott Jensen, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Malissa Longo, and Homer Frizzell. All right. So real quick, we had some trivioids. We'll go ahead and throw them out right now that did or did not make the cutting room floor. And here they come. The Enterprise doesn't space dock for another week. Captain Battelle thinks Captain Pike has better places to be other than Bear Creek, Montana. On Salon, the seas consist of liquid mercury. T'Pring asks Spock to marry her, and there's a nice necklace in it for him. Borath is notable for two things, a monastery and a rare... Wait, shoot, what does that say? A rare something that can cause temporal displacement.
Dr. the crystals.
Yeah, is that what it was?
Crystals.
Oh, that's okay. I remember now. Yes.
Crystals.
Dr. Mbenga toured the Mojave with Pike, and Pike in turn toured Kenya with him. And screw General Order 1. All right. So that's what they are. We had a lot of fun talking about Strange New Worlds. So let's keep it rolling. Who wants to go first? On a post?
Oh, goodness. Sure. I like how they use the episode to, tie in with Discovery, sort of, and then launch themselves, because you wrapped up all of the first contact issues with nobody ever thinks about the what somebody else might have been influenced by, with like this giant space battle outside. Nobody thought about worlds that weren't capable, like witnessing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then stuff from TOS with Spock and T'Pring, and you know what happens with that later, but this is sort of the beginning of that. Very interesting to see what La'an's backstory will be outside of the whole gore. That's gruesome, man. That was a gruesome childhood.
Yeah. Oh.
But to see how that ties into Nguyen Singh will be interesting. But yeah, I liked it. I want to see where it goes.
Did you have a favorite character so far?
Ooh, I think it's too early for me to decide. I mean, because you have the old favorites, but I don't know the new people. I mean, of course, I want to say Uhura because it's Uhura, but Ortiz is pretty snarky, and I kind of like that. She's got some really good snappy lines, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. You know, we hardly talked about Uhura, Cirroc. We kept talking about the cast as a whole, but there's certainly more. They didn't give her a ton of time, but we know that she's a prodigy. She had there was one moment, maybe you guys remember what it was, towards the end, where she gave like an enthusiastic, like, awesome or something, and said like,
oh,
sir.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. That's what it was. Yeah.
Cool.
That was fun. That was very charming as well. I like that a lot. Mike Goo, did you watch this episode today? And if so, how much did you love it?
I loved it a lot. I don't know if I loved it as much as the other episode that dropped in another series today, but I think that's a different episode. But I also loved, those things, I think those were words that I would have said. I love the tie-ins and then the groundings and then like a peek at the flavor of the show and then just a few of the characters, but they did focus on Anson. I love the kiss with T'Pring. I love that whole scene, that whole thing, that character. I'm interested to see where they go with that. Just like that other person on lower decks that's new.
Mm-hmm.
The Andorian or the Vulcan?
No, the new Vulcan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in that. But yeah, I loved it. But overall opinion, I think, like Anna said, is yet to be determined. Let's give it a few episodes.
T'Lyn, that's I think the Vulcan's name, right? T'Lyn. Yeah. You mentioned flavor. I think that's kind of what Cirroc and I were talking about a bit earlier. Like the tone, the tone of this new show is definitely different than the other newer shows. How would you describe it if you were talking to a casual Star Trek fan? If they said, what's the tone like? Am I going to like it? What would you tell them?
I would say that it's truth in advertising. I would say that it is that classic Trek TOS feel, but updated and graduated. I mean, we have at my company, there's a compliance manager who is like a Trek fan, but he's a TOS guy, and he hasn't watched anything new, But he told me today he's going to check out Strange New Worlds. So
wow,
we're getting them in.
Wow. So he hasn't even seen Next Generation.
No. No.
It's going to be a big difference.
Catch up on.
Yeah. Well, Goldu Scott, your thoughts? Did you enjoy? I think you liked this new show very much.
I did like it a lot. I like that it was paying tribute or fitting in, yet completely being its own thing. I like that it is answering questions or not explaining, but showing some stuff that I didn't think there was going to be light shined on, like T'Pring, like Admiral April, who, by the way, he was amazing. Every scene that he was in. Admiral April was absolutely amazing in everything that he was in. I always, ever since I saw or heard about that character existing, and we never knew that Pike was actually his number one at one point. We just knew he had the Enterprise before Pike. Mm-hmm. So I thought that it was cool. They're adding some more some flavor to that. They're filling out older characters. It was great. You know, we built up these characters in our minds for 57 years or however long it's been, and we get to see Uhura meet Chapel for the first time, and they literally are like bumping into each other, like Uhura, Chapel. I was like, oh, that's how it started. That's awesome. But
working
the thing
together
that
too.
One of the funniest things that I think I caught out of it was the whole Lieutenant Kirk to the bridge thing. Because I was super happy about this, because I have been complaining about Sam having never been in the Kelvin movies, and they just gloss over this. He has a whole older brother thing, and there was a deleted scene, but if it's deleted, it doesn't count. But then the whole bait and switch of the entire time, we thought that James Kirk was going to run up there, but it's his scientist brother who we'd only seen one time previously, and we never seen him alive. So, you know, last time we saw him, it was Shatner laying on the ground with a mustache glued to his lip dead. So, and they kept the mustache for continuity. There you go, guys. Anybody that's complaining about any other continuity.
Yeah.
Sam Kirk still got his mustache.
Don't you think it's better to have Sam Kirk than James Kirk? Because we don't need somebody that's a main character in his own show to be kind of like detracting away. I don't know. I thought it was a really smart move to have Sam Kirk instead of James Kirk. What do you think?
It was cool. And we got another science character, which they kind of said he was a Federation scientist in the original series. So I guess Federation and Starfleet. I mean, Starfleet's in the Federation. So I guess that's fair enough. But anytime we get to see another blue shirt, I'm pretty happy about that.
Team blue shirt, apparently.
Oh, but I don't know. But Leland was absolutely amazing. She was probably a standout for me there, too. That all this stuff with her family and this gruesome, like I was saying, it was some nasty, like feeding birthing pouches and stuff like that. All kinds of crazy, like super dark stuff. They didn't even touch on that she might be related to Khan. That's not even touched yet.
Stay tuned.
Yep.
Nice boombox, by the way.
I'll play tape for you real quick.
The original Punk on the Bus.
Got a punk tape in it too. My Ramones mix in there. That's as good as it gets.
Very nice. Very nice. Tierney C. Dieckmann seemed very disappointed by your Ramones choice in music. But what did you think of this first episode ever of Strange New Worlds?
I friggin' loved it. Honestly, I totally loved it, which I'm very happy for, because I went into this completely blind.
Like Hemmer.
What?
Like Hemmer, the Enar that's going to be introduced.
Okay. I am not, as maybe vaguely known, I don't want to say not a fan of new Trek, just not well versed. I've not watched a lot of it, at least as far as Discovery. I just haven't. I love Lower Decks. Iffy on Picard for various reasons, but I do find it at least entertaining. But for this, I have kept myself completely out of the loop and just neutral as far as expectations, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And it seems like a really good transition series for those that want to start getting into new Trek. This kind of makes me want to start watching Discovery more, than even with the learning more about the science behind Discovery from like Mohamed Noor's panels and Aaron McDonald makes me want to get into it more. And Anson Mount, damn, Pike is already a great character, and he brings Pike to life. Like it's really good. It just I found myself really enjoying a lot of the TOS crossover.
Yeah.
Pardon my dog.
Okay, does that dog have a horn coming out of its head? Speaking of TOS, or is it just a regular dog?
Oh, well, his name is Fade, as in Fade Routha, after the Dune character. If you're well versed in the books, one of my absolute favorite series. My other favorite sci-fi universe since childhood, besides Star Trek. So if you're familiar with that character, he is rather feisty. But I digress. I did feel at first, not knowing anything about Discovery that I might be missing some sort of references. But as I learn more about the series, I realize now it's kind of, this will be, like we had mentioned in a previous review with Seventh Rule, kind of an Alien of the Week episodic, which I'm really happy for. So I feel like I'm not going to be missing too much, and things that we kind of already are familiar with, like with Pike and the, wheelchair. I don't know personally. I haven't looked it up, but I haven't asked anybody if it was already shown in Discovery, his trip to Borath, where he becomes Captain Wheelchair Beep Boop. But yes. I gotta say, some of the moments of him seeing himself with the melting face in reflections made me laugh out loud. They were a little silly.
You sadist. You're like, look at his pain.
I'm sorry. When you watch it, Scott is going to know this. When you watch enough horror, it just becomes hilarious. Like, you can't.
Desensitized.
Well, absolutely. I don't know. Maybe we just get to a point of being broken enough. It's just everything makes you laugh. Scott
cracks don't matter.
Honestly. And the characters. I love this cast that was less quippy than a lot of the other new Trek stuff. I want more. I really want more. I loved Uhura. I loved Spock. I really like their choice for Nurse Chapel. I'd be interested to see if there's some continuity going forward, if they use her maybe for voice of computers later on. Do we get, L-cars from her?
Cute.
I would be interested to see where this goes. And I like that I felt some next gen era crossover stuff between some episodes of Voyager, where we inadvertently kind of screwed up some other planets, Friendship 1, and some other things. First Contact in TNG, the Riker Alien Hands episode. I felt
Malkorian, when he's a Malkorian, First Contact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's that episode of Enterprise as well. Before Prime Directive went down. So it felt like a nice transition. For the first time, I felt a connection, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying it. It's a good start. Good start. Good job.
You say Prime Directive, I hear General Order 1.
Prime Directive thing will never stick anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to do what they want. They all do what they want. We have our Prime Directive, our General Order 1. I think at some
Order
point
66.
they it's more of a guideline.
Yeah. Suggestion. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. What's that? A stop sign? No, I'm gonna genuflex.
It's a yield sign, whatever.
Yeah.
Speaking of Melissa, you were pretty low on this episode, right? You just were sick of it from the get-go, right?
I couldn't get past the first 5 minutes. Oh no, I'm just kidding.
No way.
Melissa showed off her acting.
Yeah,
right there. Acting.
No, I really dug the poo out of this. It was fun. I am glad and I'm happy that I really liked it. I liked the characters. La'an stood out for me from she's fantastic in my opinion. The aesthetics of how clean the ship looks, and it looks like, back during the TOS time, and I love how they dropped the ship named Archer in there. And and I love that they're establishing relationship from the get-go, from moment one. You know that La'an knows Mbenga, and they have history. Same with her and Una, they have history, and Spock is great. I love some of his lines, especially "The pain is excruciating right now." Totally deadpan, and it works.
Love it.
I like that there's some light moments, but they go dark as well. So it's a nice flow of different emotions, and it's not heavy-handed, but you get a lot of things that personally I feel has been missing in some of the new stuff. There's some levity and some, and I enjoy seeing new alien species, and as Anna was talking about the fallout of big space battles and how they affect worlds that we might not even think of, and that's kind of smart writing. And I like that they're continuing from the arc, from Discovery into this, and I don't think shows have to be one or the other. You can have an arc throughout an entire life of a series, but still have episodes to tell, individual specific episodes to tell that story, not specifically, arc or episodic.
Yeah, something that was, felt like. Something that was serialized would probably not have Pike joining the Enterprise until the very end of the first episode, or even into the second episode, and then we go, oh, finally he's joined, and we want, but in something that's episodic like this, he joins, in 10-15 minutes in there, and we're already on our first mission, our first ride. There's full closure. It's such a hard thing to do, because what that first episode is basically an example of what to expect. We know what every episode's going to be like. The tone, that there's going to be something at the end. We understand the characters. So it's basically an example. They're just saying this is what every episode is going to be like. You know what to expect. And I thought it was great. But you mentioned La'an and gravitating towards her. And I say no surprise there, because is it that she reminded you of Kira a little bit?
No, she doesn't remind me of Kira at all.
Wow.
But I guess the broken part in her, the trauma that she's experienced, sure. But I feel like La'an is a different type of being, and I feel that I didn't get Kira at all. I felt for her story, and I think she did a great job of, when they're on the planet and disguised, and, let me take the lead here. And she did great. And she's like, it was, to me, she was very strong in this first episode. And that's why I gravitated to her. And maybe she's like Kira because she is a strong female character. And I do gravitate to those.
Great character, both. Speaking of great character, nobody has better character than Homer Frizzell in Walter Koenig's former apartment building in New York somewhere. How far away is your actual apartment from where his was? Do you know the specific room?
I do.
You would.
Let's see. It's about 40. I don't know how tall a story is, but it's on the same side of the building. Okay. So yeah, it's like 40 feet away. Yeah. Down. And
some floors.
I'd have to get oriented. West, I guess.
Okay.
Down west.
And since we have a little bit of time left, what did you think about this episode too, by the way?
So I don't think I liked it as much as everyone else did. And
shoot, that is all the time we have, everybody. Boy, oh boy, I'm so sorry.
No, I liked it. I liked it well enough. I just thought, if you don't want to receive a call on your communicator, or you need to know who it is, get the app so you can get caller ID, or stick it under a pillow. Come on. Really. I'm going to put it right here in the kitchen.
Do not disturb.
Yeah, and I thought they decided that they wanted Pike to be a little bit different than previous captains, and they went in the direction of a little bit sort of folksy, almost it was almost flippant. I thought, and I thought he had basically not all the jokes, but he had the Spock jokes. He had the all ears. That's an expression. Take me to your leader. Those just
that was funny as hell, and you know it.
That was really funny.
That was lame. I thought that was lame.
Established he likes old movies, though.
And then the Mr. X that we got, the Mr. X in the beginning when they're talking about first contact. Oh, it's actually those that were contacted. Okay. So that was number one with the voiceover. And then the whole Kirk stuff. I mean, no, come on.
You got to have fan service, though.
Cheap trick.
Sam. Good band. Scott knows for
good
sure.
Band.
Homer, though, but you said he was Pike was a lot like other captains. Who would you compare him to? Liken him?
No, he's definitely not like the first Pike. I just think that they wanted to differentiate him, and so they made him a little bit folksy and down to earth, perhaps approachable, like a guy's guy kind of captain.
Well, I guess that just means that out of all of us, Homer is going to have the greatest story arc when he ends up loving this show the most. We're already liking it.
If I were asked, I would give it a 7. So a 7.
That's great. That's good.
That's good.
So it's good.
I would give this first.
I also think that this particular Enterprise has a lot more space than almost any other spaceship I've ever seen.
The Final
I
Frontier.
don't understand how they were able to do that. It's like, whoa, we got plenty of money. We're the Federation. Let's make a big ship with lots of space. Did you see Pike's quarters? It was like a bar.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
nice.
With a dance floor.
Awesome.
Put like 4 of Kirk's quarters and 1 of Pike's.
I know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anybody notice that Homer said the Federation have lots of money?
Yeah, no money.
That's how they can do it.
But I also forgot to mention that I love that it felt like the spaceship was moving.
Yes.
I love the feeling of traveling in a spaceship because that's what they're doing. So that was fun for me. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going on a trip. Yay!
Almost no
I
lens flare either.
Thinking, I was thinking, where did the fireplace chimney, where's the outlet?
That's a good
point. Bad idea.
That's a very good point.
Into the brig. It goes right into the brig. That's all.
Into the brig.
You don't want to go to the brig on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Captain, if you turn off your fireplace, we'll get more power.
Yeah, they got the fire alarms beeping everywhere. Well, before we go, Cirroc, do you have any final thoughts on the inaugural episode of this 15-year mission of Strange New Worlds?
I just will add some couple of things that we didn't cover. One is the music. There were elements of music that they placed the original score in certain places. They placed the music was really I thought was well placed and kind of nostalgic. It just made for some really good moments. I mentioned earlier how much I love the captain's log and that they brought the captain's log back. I think it's one of the essential ingredients for a good Star Trek storytelling is having that captain's log. But I wanted to mention a specific scene which I thought was fantastic. And that was when this culture that they had established first contact with had agreed to join the Federation and kind of adapt the warp core principles so that they had, their own starships essentially. During that montage where they were learning and getting to know what it was all about and kind of working together as a planet and trying to figure out how to build this warp drive, there was a moment in which, and Homer, you actually have the design on your T-shirt, where there was a paper cutout of a starship.
Yeah.
And they showed a close-up on that paper cutout. Some kid or somebody was designing, what it would look like. And they went from that paper cutout to a cut shot of the same view of the ship actually traveling through space. And I loved it. I thought it was a great shot. I thought it showed you the transition of how a planet or a culture or a civilization can alter course and achieve great things. And I thought that idea from paper to reality showed the kind of transition that we all kind of make when we're creating things. We draw them out, we schematic them, and then it becomes part of reality. So I love the visualization of that moment.
Yeah, death by 1,000 paper cutouts. And Homer says, chalkboard Enterprise was better than any I ever drew. Oh, why did I read that? I was like, oh, he's got something smart to say. Let me read it.
Not this time, apparently.
Yeah,
it was just better.
By the way,
those drawn yet.
Thank you for mentioning the music. That theme song is so freaking fantastic. I fell in love with it immediately. Absolutely beautiful musicianship. A+ for the theme song. Fantastic.
Musicianship. We'll have to double check on that word to see if that's legit.
Oh, it's a word. It's not just the USS musicians.
Oh, Homer gives it a C+.
I agree with Homer. Sorry, up until the theremin.
Really?
Yeah, I hadn't listened to it. I was pumped because everybody was raving about it, and I'm just like, when does it get good? And then it ended.
No, the percussions are so good in it.
Man,
percussions maybe, but that doesn't make up an entire melody.
Strings come in, and then
really
so
big
good.
pair of headphones. Listen to it.
I'll get a big pair of headphones and I'll listen to it. And I will enjoy its resonance, but that does not make it a good. It doesn't make it good all around.
Mike thought it was great. I saw him nodding hard.
You could agree with something being decent, and it still doesn't make it great.
Real quick, our buddy Don.
I was actually referring to moments in the episode there where they actually played some
throughout the episode. Yeah, it has really great.
Yeah, the theme song hasn't grown on me yet. It
doesn't seem like a song.
Oh, it'll grow on you like Enterprises does.
Well, it's a remix of the original, if I'm not mistaken.
Right?
It sounds like a remix.
Yeah.
Oh, ye of little faith.
I was hoping it would be the original with the lyrics.
Nope.
Oh,
watch by episode 6, you guys are gonna be like, "Oh my god, you guys, that song." Trust.
You mean by episode 6, where we skipped it 5 times since the first beginning?
You won't be skipping it for long. Real quick, our buddy Don Crandall says the movie Pike is watching is 1951's "The Day the Earth Stood Still." One of the first serious sci-fi films that wasn't.
I would hope everybody knows that automatically.
Kids movie. I didn't. I don't know anything about old crap. I don't watch old stuff. The Day the Earth Stood Still was directed by Robert Wise, who later directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's strange that in a way one of the Star Trek directors could now be considered canon. That's really interesting. He talks about.
He should have been watching. I Love Lucy would have been another great plug.
Yeah.
Or the Seventh Rule. Yeah.
or the Seventh.
Nah, probably not that. Three's Company. He mentions T'Pring and Saurian Brandy. That was good stuff from The Enemy Within. The Klingon monastery planet Boreth isn't just in Discovery, but it made its debut in The Next Generation's Rightful Heir, where Kahless returned, if everybody remembers that episode. We get more Gorn info. Also, Transporter Chief Kyle, we talked about. That was a lot of fun. Who was in not just the original series, but also the animated series. But he had a mustache in the animated series.
Anyway. If the Gorn are so evil, can you really have a party Gorn?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not all are evil. Some like to party.
There's some that party.
Some sophisticated ones. Yeah,
they're the softcore Gorn.
Oh no,
the soft Gorn.
Oh no!
Thank you, Ryan. That is the best joke you have ever made.
It's a low bar.
You just broke
and you just lowered it, but in a good way.
That bar is down in Walter's old.
Is this thing still on?
40 feet down to the west.
That's just what Don Crandall said. I'm just reading what he said.
Sure.
Thanks, Don.
Anyway.
Oh, wow.
We're going to give Homer whiplash for how much he's shaking.
Sorry I asked.
Wow.
Sorry I asked.
Wow.
All right. Anyway, we do have to run. We're a little over time right now, but you guys, thanks for joining us. Homer, stick with it. It's going to grow on you. Tierney, stick with the song. You're going to love it.
No.
And the rest of us, we're already there. We love it. Anna's background is beautiful. We were talking about that earlier. Looks awesome. Great. Thank you very much, Anna. Mike, who is, by the way, wearing an Abyssinian kiosk shirt, which was made by Cirroc Lofton's sister. You can get that at the link in the description box, abyssiniankiosk.com. Mike was also showing a new tattoo that he has.
Awesome.
That is not a marker, you guys. That's legit.
It's hot.
And thank you to Malissa Longo, Goldu Scott, Mr. Scott Jensen, Homer Freezy, causing trouble wherever he goes. And for the greatest human in the world, Aron Eisenberg, Cirroc Lofton, and myself, thank you all for joining us. And until next time, God, I'm so happy we have a new show. Always remember the 7th rule.